Right, now call to order the meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission for June 12th, 2018. We will start with our continued hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There will be a public meeting to consider an RDA by Moose Country Club regarding the proposed maintenance of a drainage ditch on the golf course, address 40 Moosnock Ave, map 393, lot 1. Do we have someone representing the applicant?
That would be me.
Okay. The last time you were here, we specifically asked for some information. Have you guys had a chance to read this over?
I have.
Okay. You give me just 1 second.
Take your time. We understand.
Is there still water in the ditch right now?
Minimal.
Minimal.
Yeah, seriously,
But
it's
it's
like an inch or two.
It's getting down, okay.
I would consider it not really running. I'm sure it's running because of, altitude, rise over run here, whatever.
Right.
At the same time, it's not, no. It's not like it has been, that's for sure.
Okay. So it doesn't look like there's any wetland species or anything. Questions, comments, guys? Ladies?
You also have the...
Yeah. Just all that together. Paul, you were there, right?
I was there.
At the second one, okay.
Yeah. Unlike in the letter, we didn't do any digging to see what was under the silt.
Right.
But apparently he has. And he's looking at historical information.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, there's still a lot of wetlands vegetation that's in that trench.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. If I read the letter, though, it doesn't look like you're ending an opinion on the resource status.
Right.
So
That's why I
I
said.
think the letter just looks at the historical issue of the trench.
But there's no opinion on...
Right.
Whether there's
Right.
wetlands or
Yeah.
not wetlands or.
And we talked about it last meeting. I wasn't there, but from what was described, it sounded like it was a resource area. We also discussed, regardless of it being jurisdictional or not, that we thought we could still let this go through as a determination.
Right.
But the big thing that I was looking for, and I think some other members were looking for, was procedurally what was going to be there in place for best management practices to make sure that we weren't impacting anything downstream
No,
while
I
work was
think that
being
was
done. And
I don't want that part.
I don't see anything here indicating how the work's going to be done. Maybe you have an update for us tonight, or?
Being caught a little off guard with this because I think Ken talked to Angela, which is, I can tell you that the thought was we were going to use a backhoe or a small mini track excavator. I'm going to haul it out with a 1.5 ton dump truck. Same depth, no difference in width, just to pretty much maintain what we had going on.
And we talked about at the last meeting, was it kind of the BMPs going forward too, correct? Is that what you're referring to?
We were looking at possibly something off-site, but I think the bigger concern was activities off-site that might be affecting this. Have you looked into that at all?
I did. I met with Mr. Turbo as well as the gentleman who is renting the farm space. They actually have a conservation plan in place. That field was seeded. Unfortunately, only about 25% of the seed took this year. They are planning on reseeding this season. They just haven't gotten to it. They have several fields that they're attending right now in busy season. But they didn't realize that it was an issue, so they are going to work on it. I did meet with them. We discussed it. So they're going to get everything seeded. But they were under the impression that it didn't look like a lot of it was coming down from where they were, from where that farm is. And they said that, it kind of has been an ongoing issue with drainage.
The dirt's got to be coming from somewhere, and just looking at
There's a lot of grass there.
just looking at the aerials. I mean, the golf site looks pretty stable.
Right.
I didn't see anything open there, but it looked like off-site around it, particularly in the farm areas, was exposed. So until you have things growing there, they should look at installing BMPs just to prevent that from running downhill and getting into this area.
Mm. Did you go up to where, well, you were on the site walk,
Yes.
and you guys went off Minusinock's property to see what was up there?
Pretty much on the high side. I don't know if we actually stepped on anybody else's property.
No,
but-
we didn't leave the
We didn't
property.
leave the
They owned the
property.
property,
There
no.
was pretty heavily wooded area
Okay.
in between, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could see the lower, the upper field, but
Right.
we didn't go.
Go up there, yeah.
If this, I don't know if this is the place to approach this, but I know the gentleman who is leasing the land. He came up to me somewhere and asked me what he had done. I don't know what that means, but I would say that we're more than casual acquaintances. So this was kind of a tough conversation. It was in the middle of a graduation party. But I told him it wasn't the time to talk about it. That's what I can tell you. I don't know what that adds to it, but
Right.
I'm not saying he's guilty, but
Yeah.
I sensed he thought he had a problem. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Or a challenge. I don't like to use the word
I
problem.
do think it being an agricultural field and being under a conservation plan, and they have kind of all these things and stuff, they maybe were a little concerned being contacted by the conservation agent. And I did explain to them that it was a cordial meeting, it was not an enforcement, we just needed to discuss, but they may have just been concerned.
Okay.
Kurt, that's
Yeah.
it. You mentioned the silt fence to me. I didn't mention it then.
I mean, that would be a pretty minor, low cost fix,
Right.
dig a trench, lay some.
So fence in there, and yeah, that's kind of what.
Well, if you don't.
I mean, ideally, I would like to see the drainage ditch or whatever we're calling it get fixed and maintained,
Mhm.
but really stop it from happening again. That's why we're hoping for more kind of
I think we're feeling the same way.
a little bit of,
Angela, was the application form updated? Or was this the original?
And that's not the original, that one was just sent along with the paperwork that
Why did they update this, or? The only reason I'm asking is if there's something previous to this one, because it's I'm going through what it's requesting right now. And it's only asking if the area depicted on plan and or map referenced below is an area subject to jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act. So that's asking for determination on the jurisdiction.
On this
So-
form, I have A and C.
What's
So
that? The
on the
previous one had A
original-
and C?
Yeah, it had A
Okay.
and C on it, so they.
And you received this updated information when?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
What do you think, Paul?
My thought is that, in my opinion, there's a lot of wetlands above the trench. And because the trench has been left untended,
Right.
there's now wetlands vegetation in the trench, along with some obligate species. You can see the frogs jumping in and out. I don't have any problem cleaning the trench out, but I think the operation has to be somewhat delicate to preserve as much of the wetlands vegetation on the top berm of that trench on either
Right.
side. I wouldn't want to see it just all completely scoured out. I can understand getting down there and getting the depth and allowing the thing to flow, to serve its purpose. But now that some wetlands vegetation has been established on those embankments, I think some of that should stay. It's my own opinion.
In the past, one of the things that we asked, because of the erosion in the bank, was we asked there to be a buffer of like 1 foot or whatever that didn't get mowed, instead of mowing directly up
Right.
to the channel, leave just a strip of so that wetland vegetation can take hold and
Right.
hold on to,
And
help
stabilize the
stabilize
embankment as well,
everything, yeah.
And aesthetically, I think it would look nice.
I think,
But-
I'm sorry, Paul. I think we're kind of doing that now. I just left there probably about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
And just because I want to walk through one more time in my own mind and know what I was thinking here. And I think we've also had at one time where you people have asked that if we were going to do any work in the trench, it was important that if we had the weed whacker near it and everything, standing in the trench with the weed whacker. And I'm not totally familiar with all that stuff. I know that our head superintendent was well aware of it because we had that discussion. Because I wondered, if this had ever come up in conversation before. He goes, absolutely, we can't be in the trench, and that was well understood. Keeping a buffer up, Paul, that doesn't, that's more than reasonable.
Not
I
gonna
totally
be
understand.
dysfunctional.
Actually, aesthetically, it's much better looking anyway if you do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not the reason I understand you guys want, but it definitely looks better if,
Yeah.
like when it's hanging over the edge there and we just see the rock on the bottom, that's as clean as we've ever been, I'm not talking about rebuilding the walls with stone or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just to clarify it.
Okay.
And the elevation is the other big thing. I know, like one of the other times this was done, the big thing was establishing like the right material in the bottom of the channel, along with keeping the elevation proper. Because the bottom of it is important too, for any species.
If I might ask a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a plan on where the material is going to go?
I wouldn't say it's concrete at this time, because like you, we were trying to determine getting somebody over there and seeing how much we had.
Yeah.
I don't imagine we're gonna pull it off property right now, because we're not sure where to go. If we were to take it on the property and there was some thought, it's it's maybe dry enough now, not really. But we were gonna do some mounding over between a couple of holes, but I'm not sure, we haven't even seen the composition of it, if it's all silt.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to everybody that it's gonna take a lot of silt. It's not like it's got a lot of texture to it, it's not a lot of gravel and a lot of stone and everything, and then, it's not like we're just putting that down with a half a foot of loom over the top, so I'm not sure that was the best thing. We were gonna keep it, I would say that there was no thought about at all about taking it off property, because honestly, I don't think we've done a great job of even thinking about this whole thing, because we're trying to figure out where we're at before
Yeah.
we were doing everything.
Right.
I'd be glad to keep people in the loop. I have zero problem doing that,
Yeah.
myself or somebody there, for sure.
My concern is if it gets stockpiled to contain it somehow so that it
Oh,
doesn't
yes.
create another problem somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm sure that, we could hay bale or whatever we had to do to keep it in the same,
Or at least get it
Yes.
stable, like if you're gonna make,
Sure.
like you said, if you're gonna make some
Yeah.
feature on the golf course and loom it, and
Yeah.
that's fine too.
yes. Yes, hay bales, that type stuff. I'm not totally familiar, but I'm familiar enough with it to understand what
Yeah.
you know, what we're going for there, that's more than reasonable.
Yeah.
There's some thought that there's probably thousands of golf balls in parts of it too, so in a lot of ways, there's a lot of reason to sit it there, you know, we got a driving range over there that we pay ridiculous money for golf balls, so,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
that type of thing is just might be part of it too, you know, so.
Right. What's your thoughts, Brad, at this point?
I don't want to push this out any further, only because it's the time of the year to do the work.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm thinking that it may be worthy of a negative determination, box 2. I would say we do have jurisdiction over it. It is a resource area. And I'd like to see or hear from someone what BMPs will be used during the construction, as well as the plan for where the excavates are going when you pull
Okay.
them out.
When you mentioned P&P, Brad? What?
BMP,
B&B,
best management practices.
best manager, okay,
So,
B&P,
So-
yeah.
how are you gonna keep the silt from going back
Totally
in
understand.
there?
Once that channel is completely exposed and you get
Yeah, we wanna keep
a
it.
big rain event, that material is gonna erode and get washed downstream until it's naturally had time to retake. So
Right.
there are things that can be done. There are different types of check dams, for instance, that can be put within the stream channel. There's protections for the culvert pipes that outlet the channel, things of that nature. So it shouldn't be long or hard to think about, as long as you've got the right consultant working
Somebody
with you.
doing it, yeah,
So
somebody
I'm-
explaining it to us,
I'm-
okay.
I'm thinking we potentially give you the negative determination with those 2 conditions, and then as soon as we hear back, or you report to the agent that we're satisfied with how you're gonna do it, and then you're all set. I'd like someone to be there too when the work's being done, just so that we can monitor it as well.
Okay, someone from Kent, or Angela, oh, that's fine, fine,
By
fine.
someone.
We have an agent.
No, that's fine, I was thinking,
Bring your clubs, it's gonna be a long day.
Yeah.
Our chair only needs 5 minutes notice to get here from Boston.
I think I agree with that. Let them do the work, but let's condition those things.
I just have a,
Yeah.
Kind of one thought, and like Lake Samoset, for example, they have a management plan.
Yep.
Like, it seems to me that you guys come in here enough, if you were to come up with a plan of how to maintain the course overall, you know, primarily in that wetland areas,
yep,
you could file a notice of intent that would determine where the resources area, where the resource areas are, and a long-term maintenance plan. So that every time something like this happens, all you have to do is notify Angela, say, you know, we're gonna follow the best management practices in our order of conditions. We're gonna do the work, you know, the beginning of June, you know, give her some notice, and then, you know, she can just come out and take a look at it. But you'll have
Yeah.
an established plan in place, the resource area will already be delineated, there'll be no questions going forward. And then you can just, after 3 years, you can ask for an extension, and then you can just keep that
I
going.
think that's been kind of discussed at a shorter level with our place, but I don't think we knew enough to bring it up in front of enough people at our place to
Yeah.
understand what they were committing to. I understand. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be any pushback on it either, you know, I mean, we understand that this isn't going away unless we do something about it. It
Right.
seems like this isn't the first time we've been in here when I listen to you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just as much interested, I kind of inherited this, only
Right.
because I dug a few holes in my life, you know, for the gas company.
Right.
So I'm thinking, well, I know a little bit about wetlands and stuff like that, but I'm hardly the expert here, so
Yeah.
I totally know what you're saying, though, you know, and I was kind of hoping that we could head towards a long-term maintenance plan also. Where we
It just,
could
it
call-
makes
talk,
things
yeah.
a lot easier for you,
Yeah.
makes it so, you know, you don't have to keep coming in front of us, but we know exactly, you say, hey, we're gonna work in this area.
Sure,
Angela goes out, says, yep, you need erosion controls, or you don't need, or, you know,
sure.
it's a
It
much
makes
simpler
total- It makes total
process.
sense to me.
We're
I mean,
comfortable.
This whole thing makes total sense to me.
Yeah, so we're comfortable in this and that, so.
Yeah. So if I understand right where we are right now, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, because I gotta bring this back to people, okay? Brad was talking about the possibility of a negative impact at this point, but just, can you put it in words for me?
Sure.
Brad, I'm sorry.
What I was discussing is potentially closing the meeting tonight.
Yeah,
issuing a negative determination, which basically means we don't think that the work you're gonna do is gonna alter the resource areas.
Okay.
Provided that you stick to those 2 special conditions that we discussed.
Sure.
Yep.
Which was the
Which was,
BM,
come up with a list of BMPs that are gonna be
BMP,
used
yeah.
while the activity's being done,
yeah,
as well as give us a plan for where the excavates are going.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
Any other comments, questions?
I think that's a good idea.
Ms. Cuomo?
Well, I know when you clean it out, you're gonna look at the embankments and
Sure.
preserve as much of that as you can. That's my concern,
Yeah.
is saving a buffer between the golf course and the trench itself, where we do have some wetlands vegetation.
Obviously, you're gonna notify Angela.
Yeah,
That's part of
before we do a thing.
the things.
That I
If you just
understand.
if you just wanna notify the commission, just so in case if you'd like to,
If I'm around, I could go up, sure.
if
Sure.
you'd like to.
Just to touch on that, Paul, some of the photos I did look at of the site, I had to figure out if there was actually water there because there was vegetation beyond the bank and it had covered over the stream itself. So I think he's correct that they have been doing that in the past, at least, you know, whether it's all the time or at least intermittently. Some of the photographs showed evidence that they've been doing it that way, which is good.
And when I brought that up, I wasn't like implying that they were cutting it. I just remember that was something we had requested in the past, was to leave that buffer strip.
Mhm.
So I actually have no idea if that's still something that
Well,
was.
there's actually, even from a golf standpoint, there's a lot of reasons to leave that buffer strip, because number one, people wanna play where it's fun. They don't want their ball going in the water all the time, seriously.
Yeah, when my ball
So,
rolls, I don't want it
yeah,
in the
you don't
trench.
want it.
It's a constant
And there's a
throws.
feel- I mean, in a crazy way, the feeling when you go from a short grass into the long grass is a lot better than going into the water, so people are like relieved when they get down there. So, and there's a lot of reasons that we would do that. Just, most golf courses, I would, unless we're going to Augusta here, would probably leave some kind of longer grass buffer there, built into the grass falling over the side like it is
Right.
pretty much all the time now.
Right. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third and final time. Can we close the public hearing? Any objections? All right, public hearing is closed. Do you have any recommendations, Angela, or do you want us to make a motion? Okay.
I recommend that we issue a negative determination with the 2 conditions of the BMPs provided and the location of the excavates.
Would it be, I'm sorry, if I'm not sure, would you be kind enough to put that on a piece of paper that, well, I could explain that
Absolutely.
20 people are gonna ask me questions when I get back there? You know, I can definitely explain the whole thing as long as I got it on a piece of paper, you know?
I'll
A lot
send
of
you a
people-
copy of the
Yeah, and
determination.
it's obviously not, you know what I'm saying, whatever. I mean, we're at that point, we gotta, thank you very much.
Do I have a-
Can I ask one
Sure.
small question before we vote?
Yeah.
What about the tenant farmer? How are we leaving that?
The abutting parcel,
Yes.
you're still working with them, correct?
Yeah, I can check and see what they're gonna put in place and when they're planning on seeding. They were looking into other options, so I can check and see what their scheduling is right now.
And also, importantly, if you can get out there at some storm event, just to see what's going
Yeah,
on.
I'm interested in seeing
So
what's
if it's
going on.
coming from off-site or if something else is happening,
Yeah.
so.
We're due for a good thunderstorm, so sooner or later it's gonna wash again.
It's gonna rain tomorrow, I don't know how much.
Yeah.
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 The only thing I can say, Brad, is the only thing that's really changed, and I'm just speaking as a layman here, is we never had the combination since they since they took the trees down in back of that. There's a side of the left side of the green where it just, the water flows like a river down there for a couple days after.
So what?
That's the only
what-
change,
What
yeah.
forest that was there may have just acted as a filter.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not
but-
adding here a lot more water. I did look at how many
Yeah.
trees were there. It wasn't a big area. But
I know, I think it was
so
just,
I
they
think it
were
was
quite a
just
bit
built.
farther away from maybe it was all sitting there, I don't know, behind the wall or whatever, but that's fine. That's just,
Do I have a motion?
I heard part of what you said, so I might tweak it a little bit. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a negative determination of applicability for 40 Minusnack Avenue, Box 2, that this is jurisdictional, with these special conditions that prior to the commencement of any work, that the applicant contact our conservation agent for approval of what BMPs will be used while the work is being done, and also a plan for where the excavates will be placed, and that our agent be present when work commences.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, sir.
thank you.
I would highly recommend talking to them about kind of a standard maintenance plan.
Oh, yeah,
You can
that's
talk to
obvious to
your-
me at this point.
Yeah,
I'm happy that you guys brought it up, because I kind of brought it up, hearing from other people, and I'm like, because I don't want to do this. I'm getting, I'm only kidding, but
correct.
thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that's the application.
All right, regular meeting, certificates of compliance, Pleasant Street, solar farm. Do we have pictures here or no?
Yes, we do. I do believe we provided them to you. I did visit the site on Monday. There is some growth, but I'm not sure. It's not really a substantial amount of growth in the wetland replication area. I also provided the seed specs that they had used.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry.
that's it. Thanks.
Is that the right elevation for, they, was kind of upland.
So there is a slope.
Yeah.
I was also, pretty grassy at the beginning of it, so I was kind of climbing around on rocks to try and get a good picture.
So is it the area beyond the rocks that's actually the wetland replication area?
I think it's that whole area.
The whole area?
This shot here ends with right at Pleasant Street.
Yeah, that's right, at the road. I know that wasn't our jurisdiction, but the growth there happened pretty quickly over 2
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
But the other
Yeah,
areas
that
kind of
was washed
struggling,
out quite a
so.
bit. Did they regrade the road going in as well?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So these areas are blended at the same time?
I think so.
The replication area was done beforehand, so it's been there longer. I just don't see the,
That's what you're talking about.
yes.
How much growth have you seen in these last 2 weeks? Not much,
Not too much.
Not much
A
more
couple
than
more,
that.
a couple more plants popping up.
right?
Pretty sparse.
Yeah. Is that just straw or is that actual mats? You know?
We talked about this last time. I believe it is the mats.
It looks like.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's rolled though here, like,
Yeah,
it almost looks like a roll, like the end of a roll right there.
that's why at first you look at straw, but I'm like, it
Yeah.
looks very uniform, so I wonder if it's like matting. Tops.
I'm just looking at this wetland area and it just seems, I'm looking at the area just adjacent to it and it looks very upland. And it doesn't look like there's any change in elevation. Looks like the exact same elevation. It's almost like they just plant.
Very well could be, yeah.
I mean, typically when you go from upland to wetland, you see some sort of change in elevation.
Yeah. Do we have the certification letter from, was it Beals and Thomas?
little dry up there now, but it's been.
I don't think so, even if it's weeds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why I mean, obviously you want wetland vegetation, but even if it was weeds, it
I see a couple of ferns, but there's not much there.
Yeah, so I believe we discussed this a little bit last meeting. We really should get a report from their wetland scientist on whether it meets the performance standards. So they didn't put that in their letter last time, other than it was just, you know, they made a note that it was just planted. And they do have staff within that office that can do that, so they should be able to get us that information.
I'd like to, if the wetland scientist is gonna look at it, if they can just make sure that they've done the proper elevations for this, because just looking at this photo, I don't see any difference between the wetland elevation and what's supposedly upland right next to it. Unless I'm missing, you know, maybe.
it's hard to say from that
Yeah.
picture, but
It's
it looks pretty
Yeah,
flat.
it's deceiving.
Looks pretty flat. Right?
Yeah, so if they could just be certified, you know,
There is a slight slope, but it's hard to see. from the
yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
Is it back down?
Mm. Where is this?
That is, so if you're walking down the path, you walk down the path and you come around the corner of the path, so you have to walk through that to get to the wetland reclamation
Okay.
area. Which I found it, you know, that's grown immensely over 2 weeks.
Right. And then obviously that's up by the road.
That's up by the road, which is also growing.
Yeah. What are you guys discussing?
I was just trying to figure out
Just looking
where
at
Where
it was
that
on the
is,
site plan.
yeah.
So I would say let's get the information from their consultant.
Okay.
Yeah.
You gonna follow up with that, Angela?
Yeah, I'll give them a call.
Okay, perfect. You have any comments there? Okay. 375 Harvard Street. Where did we leave that one? I forgot.
They needed to record the
That's right.
recent order before we issued the certificate of
That's right.
compliance for the old.
They recorded it already and they recorded it yesterday.
You recorded it yesterday? Okay.
Was there anything else that we wanted besides that?
On my end, no. I know there were some others that had concerned me at some point, so.
Unfortunately, I don't remember, but I didn't have a problem with closing it out. So,
I think the request just said that the work wasn't done.
The real issue is with those DEP forms. there isn't a box that says the work somewhat started, it was also in violation, and
And
now we're
never
looking to clear this off the title. So
Yeah.
I think that was probably the reason. It might have been the closest match, rather than saying everything was completed in accordance with the plans, because it wasn't. That's the other option for the checkbox. When we issued the order of conditions, we did have that condition put in there, or that note put in there, that this was the result of an enforcement order. So there's still indication that the site was in violation.
Right.
We gave them 1 year to complete all of the work. And the new order is recorded on the title. And I guess to add to that, DEP is still involved in enforcement. So I don't think there's really any risk of us getting rid of that
No,
old
especially
order.
now that the new order kind of addresses most of those concerns.
And hopefully under the new order, the work will be done. That was the concern, that certain things would be done and other things wouldn't be.
Correct. So that site's currently under enforcement through DEP.
Well, they've
With-
been tracking it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. That's what I thought.
It hasn't reached a high level of enforcement with them, because they're just waiting to see if they're gonna comply with what the commission's asking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns?
No, get this one
Okay.
off the books and focus on the order of conditions, I guess.
All right. Do I have a motion for COC for 375 Harvard Street? DEP 199781.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we issue a certificate of compliance for 375 Harvard Street.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Angela, do you know if they've done anything at that site yet?
The last time I drove by was on Saturday, and there was nothing being done at this time. I have been in contact with Mr. Cleaves, and they have not started any work
Okay.
at this time.
'98 Sac Boulevard, the Tesla site. Looks like you have some pictures here. Is this what it looks like today?
No, that was yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon.
I have a question on this site. There's a area that's blocked off because of like frost heaves. Right around, there's big mounds and sinkholes, and it's right next to the Tesla site. I was just making sure it wasn't the same site.
Nope, that was from the water main break.
Okay.
And so there's just repair and replace, does not go fire.
Because the only thing we need to be careful of there, whenever they do any kind of work on the pavement, is sometimes they want to there's a tendency to just put a coating over it, but that's all floodplain, so everything has to remain at the same elevation that it was at in the
Yeah, I
first
did
place.
speak to them. They said there was just be a repair and replace from
Okay.
the water main break on Mother's Day.
All right.
Comments, Mr. Colombo? Looks like you're itching to say something.
No, I see this quite often because I shop at Market Basket. And it's still, apparently somebody decided to drive up and down the bank.
I've seen it happen quite a few times.
Really?
What I don't understand is that when you go around Market Basket and the other facilities that are there, they are meticulously landscaped and manicured and picture perfect.
Except
And
for
you
here.
come to Tesla and it looks like a dump site. I don't understand why the company has ignored this. They know it needs to be stabilized.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not being done.
I mean, it's growing in, but it's not great. I can tell you that.
But this area was related to Tesla work, correct?
I think they tied into electrical here.
They
said.
yeah, I don't know if did we ever get. Oh, they had to go to this pole. Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
that's they had the electrical there. I did call the Market Basket headquarters and they weren't really too sure, but Mr. Cleave said he would have no problem just throwing some grass seed down if the commission wanted him to, but it wasn't on the original plans, so that's why they didn't do it originally.
So they put in conduit to the electric pole. You can kind of see where that's
Yep.
disturbed. But the other 2 pitches, that's outside the project area?
It is, I believe that was, flood storage replacement.
They did flood storage replacement there?
I believe that's why I was,
I think they cut out some of the embankment. Is that right?
I don't think it was there.
I don't think, if I remember that, when we had the NOI, I don't think,
I don't think
It was-
that.
no.
No,
That's too far.
because look at
Yeah.
the curb,
there
the,
was nothing involved. That's why I wondered why they even got into that banking. Going to the utility pole makes sense. Bigger trench, you put in the conduit underground or whatever they did. That makes sense, but why the rest of the banking, it is what it is.
I
don't
believe
know.
they cut off about 1.5 feet of that embankment.
it was on the compensatory flood storage
Was
in the
it?
banking, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to create a lower elevation of some kind.
So compensate for the berm and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
That's at a different elevation. I thought you were supposed to compensate at similar elevations.
right, that's why I thought for some reason it was in a different spot.
Well, remember this NOI came in after the fact. They had done some work down there. And I had called Marco and I mentioned to him, it's this work being done right in the middle of Searstown. I still call it Searstown.
I think
And he
it's
went
right
down and
there.
wrote the enforcement order and stopped it. And it took them about a month to come before us with the paperwork. So it was kind of an after the fact filing.
Yeah.
It looks like it's elevation 299.
I'm pretty sure they dug into this embankment for compensatory storage.
I mean, the thing is, at some point though, you can't, I mean, somebody drives their car through there, at some point, it looks like this was stabilized to some extent. Like, we had this happen near power lines where people go through there with dirt bikes, at some point,
Yeah.
you can't.
That's what I'm saying, like if they dug into the bank and, I mean, this is gonna continue to happen forever. At what point is it not their responsibility? You know what I mean? I guess I would agree with that.
Yeah, that is the area of the compensatory.
So it looks like it had grass or some sort of vegetation growing and then someone
It
drove through
started
it
to
again.
come up, but
Is
then
that-
it washed it.
That's above the elevation that even floods during the,
Right.
Well,
I think that's where they dug into it.
what was the BFE there? I don't remember off the top of my head.
With the.
Is this thing-
I'm not sure they did that the other day.
I don't have my glasses, so I'm not gonna be able to read much of it, so.
$296. It's like $296.
So, oops, I don't see the photos.
Yeah.
So that, to me, does not look like a 1% slope. So is there anything next to that curve that looks flat? You're not gonna be able to tell a 1% slope pitches by eye, it's gonna look flat.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna look like a sidewalk.
There's nothing that's flat.
It's, yeah.
Because that's what the plan is showing.
And these trees that are on here, I don't think are there. Isn't it just wide open?
Yeah, I think there's light poles, I don't believe there's trees. There is, I believe there's one tree by where the tire marks are.
They're showing 4 on this plan. Were they,
I don't believe there's one between the two.
it's on the plan.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
If it's, I mean, yeah.
like I said, it came in after the fact, so
I do, oh, that's from
but if it's on the plan, to get a certificate, if it's a planting.
There's 4 of them there. And they show some on the other side of the street.
What's
I
it
don't know if
show,
those are
Brad, being
existing.
basically 1% slope off the curb?
Yeah.
Is that what the plan?
So there's the cut into the slope. Do you
Okay.
wanna see this line right here? So there's the
Okay.
there's the building,
Right.
here's the slope, shows the cuts through here. So we got 1%.
Oh, yeah.
How far, what is that? 5 feet, give or take?
What's
At
that?
1%? Is that what he's saying? Is that what that says, Brad? 1% slope for about 5 feet. It looks like it's this.
Yeah,
So is there anything behind the curve that looks like you could put a sidewalk there without grading it? No, okay.
So it's not done. Okay.
No, it rises up fairly quick.
Right, that's.
Yeah, a 1% slope is just enough for water to run, so it's gonna
Cut
be,
anywhere near as deep as they should have.
the picture of a road is more than 1%, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So,
No, I mean, you can see it. You can see the hill.
yeah,
with those tire tracks.
so there's no compensatory storage is really what it comes down to.
Was there a condition for an as-built on that, on the compensatory?
I think it's in the, it's in the boilerplate usually, the as-built.
I have the actual order of conditions here, I'm gonna
Okay,
ask
that,
about
I mean,
it.
yeah, it's, well, I think we're not probably ready yet, right?
No,
Okay,
not
we
after seeing that.
Can look at that later, but that's just another piece of it, the stabilization part, and I also agree with Larry, you know, stuff, anything that might be outside the project area, I wouldn't be too concerned about.
Right.
If it's the compensatory place or an area that they worked on, connect to the electrical pole, that's something different.
Right.
So do we wanna just
So,
continue that one?
yeah, we'll continue that one, if you could just let Mr. Cleaves know
Absolutely.
what we found and what we need addressed. Extension permits,
None.
do you have any new communications?
I did speak with Mr. Giannakis about, and Judy Russo, sorry, about the Lake Samoset. They did their treatment on June 7th at the lake. And I provided the report from last year as well as their license that they sent over.
Okay.
One, so we're talking about this one now? One question on that, one concern is, my father happens to be an abutter, he didn't actually get notified that they were doing it. The commission had asked to be notified as an abutter, getting that form.
Right.
And they actually put the wrong lake in the announcement, they put like Silver Lake in Agawam
Oh, jeez.
in the notification to abutter. So, like all those things on top of not notifying the commission, it sort of, was not a great situation,
That's lucky.
Do we know what, I mean, obviously, your father's property is in a butter.
Yeah.
We know that. Did you pull an abutters list? Do you know what they were using for an abutters list?
So-
Which he should be on it, I mean, your dad's lived there for quite a while, but.
So what we believe happened, I did speak to Judy and Peter Lanza about it. Unfortunately, Mr. Lanza was out of town for personal matters for about a month, and so he wasn't really there to kind of oversee it. But the company that was handling it informed that they only need to give 48 to 72 hour notice to the abutters, so that's what they had done. But it looks like when the company had pulled in a abutter list, they did not pull the correct abutter list because the city of Leominster has an easement around it, which when you pull the abutter list a certain way, your father does not show up on the abutter list. So what me and Miss Russo discussed was that she would contact me for an abutter list next time, and I would get it from a certified list that went beyond the easement 200 feet out for the next time. She did say that they did send an email out, and she did apologize profusely for it. They didn't realize that the mistakes had been made until they were already out of her hands, and they'd already had this guy the people scheduled to come out on the 7th, and everything was kind of rolling down the hill.
Okay.
this is why in the past, like, the commission, like, actually, if you look at historically, when they came in to treat, they were actually given a 1 year, you know, instead of a 3-year permit, it was actually, it was written in there that this was only good for one, you know, for 1 year.
For
because-
treatment.
For treatment. Because, you know, we want to make sure that, you know,
Where
it's just
that's
concerns
done.
about chemical treatment and, you know, make sure everything's done correctly, and, like in this case, it wasn't, so, the way that it was approved for their, management plan, basically, all they did is take a whole bunch of pamphlets and say, this is what we wanna do. There was no actual clear definition of what a lake management plan is, so it's very vague, so that it gives them a lot of liberties, like things like this, where in the past, every time that they filed, you know, they had a plan in place. Usually it would get evaluated. He would say, we're gonna treat these areas, we're gonna use, I'm estimating to use this much chemical in these locations. Cause I think there's wells and stuff in the area, so they have to be cognizant of that. So, and then at the end, there would be a final report that would then get submitted to them, and a copy would come to the commission. And we weren't getting those copies either. So there was just a lot of things about this that make it.
Did they post the shoreline?
They did by
They
the
did
dam,
post along the
yeah,
shoreline,
and the public beaches.
and I did speak, my children's childcare is over in that area as well, and they were all, so a good portion of people were notified, but I think it was just the abutter issue. And then I think there was confusion on my part, because there wasn't a list of requirements in their file, what they had to provide or do, there wasn't.
The order doesn't seem to specify
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
special. Yeah. But pesticides are regulated with certain requirements anyway that do require that you post a minimum of 48 hours in advance. And you also keep it, and you keep it posted for 3 days afterwards too. It's a 5-day plan, so.
And
They did do that.
they were still posted on Monday when I drove by. I do know they also, so they're only treating every 3 years as of right now. So if they did make, in the future go through like the 1 year plan, how would they just have to file a couple months before?
Basically they come in, notify us what they were doing, and then we'd say, go ahead, but that go ahead's only good for about 1 year. So kind of like any chemical treatment, if I can remember right, we kind of asked them before you're going to treat chemically to come in front of us, just let us know what you were doing.
Right. They would come in with a plan, and he would have a map, and he'd say, we're gonna, we found, milfoil in this area, the size is this, we're estimating to use, 2 pounds of 10,4-D in this area, whatever the names are. And then when he was done, he would actually give us an actual, what he actually
used.
treated. And he has to report that to the state anyway, so.
Can I comment?
No, sure.
So I've worked on a lot of these lake management plans. I'm actually in favor of allowing them to be in effect for 5 years. And a big reason on that is a lot of times you do have a number of abutters that are there. It's expensive and rigorous to go through permitting. So I think to make somebody go through it every year, if they want to do it every year, is a little excessive. I don't think that the issues that we had with this particular treatment event are going to be resolved by making them come in for a permit every time they need to do it. The abutter list, that's an easy fix. You just need to make that current every year, and whatever glitch is happening, if the list is coming off the GIS function and you know about that, just work around that, fix it, and make sure everybody's getting notified. The real biggest important thing I think too is having that shoreline, having the signage there, so anybody going down to the water can see that. I've worked with this particular company a number of times. They usually do that in any site that I'm involved with, so I've seen them be pretty rigorous about that. So if they notify the abutters at least 48 hours in advance, have the signs posted that time frame, I'd be happy with allowing them to do the work under a long order of conditions. You can, for a management plan like this, you can go up to 5 years, it's not the standard 3. And if there's any issue in terms of the reporting, like if they find it's not working or making something worse, they'd still have to come back to us to make sure that their particular treatment is in accordance with what we want to see. As long as the order is conditioned that way, but I don't think this order really reflects that. That's my only concern there. But if you have a really good tight order that says specifically what you want them to do, and they come back to you during that permit effective period, then why not keep it open? At least 3.
Right.
Like I said, I'd be favor of 5.
They most definitely seem willing to do everything that they're supposed to do. I did speak to Ms. Russo about it, and she was definitely, she worked very hard to give me everything that you needed and to explain everything to me within, after hours, giving her phone calls and discussing. I think this was just kind of a fluke, but I do think there needs to be something in the order of conditions just in case, for any reason I'm not here, as someone not familiar with it.
And this is the one we just issued an extension permit for?
Yes.
Do you know if it was me that issued it? Because it was
The-
before I
No,
came
those
to
did,
it.
did they came in, I don't know if that was just a yearly update, or did they come in for an extension? You weren't
I
here
wasn't
then?
here, I'm sorry.
Oh.
That
Must have been like
there was
the week
I think it was
before.
like a
There was
couple
two
weeks before me.
there was 2 orders. They
Two
wanted them
orders
on the
that-
same day so they could keep them
Yeah.
concurrent.
The big thing is the communication. I mean, if we're not getting the reports, that, that's the one thing that we had asked, to be copied on that.
Right.
And to be notified as an abutter with that mailing, so that, because, those little they're little things, but, over time, if those little things aren't being done,
Right.
that's my biggest concern, is that, having a blanket management plan that isn't really specific,
Mhm.
and then to allow, just a blanket, like any activity and not have.
Right. So I specifically remember talking, because the last time they treated, they came in front of us, said, we're gonna do this, we talked about this, that, other options, and
Yeah, because he talked about the chemicals that were being used and
Yeah,
locations,
yeah.
they identified like wetland habitat and
so
marked them on
maybe,
the plan.
I guess maybe we weren't specific enough, or
Right,
maybe we
yeah.
weren't, whatever at the time, but.
So maybe we need to, make clear our expectations better.
Right. I mean, the abutters list is one issue that, whatever, that can be fixed. So currently, we have a 3-year order with them, basically, from a couple months ago. Okay, if you could just specify that to whoever because who are you dealing with at the Lake Samoset?
I've been dealing with Judy and Mr. Lanza, but
Okay.
at this point, Mr. Lanza was out of town, so.
That's fine. If you want to just let them know we've spoke about it and what we'd expect in the future. Basically, the commission definitely needs to be notified at least 48 hours, or whenever they notify their abutters, we need to be part of that list, first and foremost. That way we can stop them if, for whatever reason, we don't, and if they could tell us earlier, that'd be fine too.
Because they said they were gonna come into a meeting beforehand.
Yeah.
Just let us know they were doing it to give us an update. They did say that, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's my biggest thing is,
It just kinda happened and-
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Yeah. You could just follow up with them.
Absolutely.
The treatment obviously got done.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other communications? Okay. Minutes from May 8th. Did everybody have a chance to review them?
I did.
Any issues?
I didn't see it.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes for the May 8th meeting as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the May 8th, 2018 minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Mr.
All in
Chairman.
favor? Thank you. New business, Hill Street, lot number 520-1.
Mr. Gino?
Yes, so there's a couple things with this site, the commission usually brings these up every so often. 2 things is, in the past, there's a meadow, and the commission had In the past, we were having the DPW go up there like every few years, just to clear the meadow and maintain it as a meadow after the nesting season for meadow birds. It's getting much smaller now. A lot of the birches are getting big around the edges, so we're starting to lose that. So it's just a matter of whether we want to maintain that as a meadow or if we want to let it go back to, being woods, So that's just something for the commission to think about, because it would cost some money to have people, clear, some of the birch around that are encroaching
Is that
on
what
the meadow.
mostly it is?
Yeah,
Mostly
it's all the,
birch and-
the emergent trees right now.
Yeah, the little.
Yeah, but they're getting bigger now, the birch, they're starting to get like this big around, so. Then the other thing is, we had talked about this at a previous meeting. The Hill Street property was purchased with land from the fees paid for hunting, and it's currently posted as no hunting. And that's, that was done by the Conservation Commission.
It's this parcel, the same parcel?
Yes.
Is that near a street address that I can?
Like 52 maybe, in that area. I don't know if that's even.
Paul said he'd know it.
I thought someone had.
I could bring my John Deere up there and take
Yeah.
care of that.
Well, we were having the DPW was mowing it for us in like
Do you know where this is?
in like September timeframe after.
Okay.
But the abutters would usually clear the path because of the farm there, the Lost View Farm.
Okay, yeah, so someone told me that sometimes, I think Marco had informed me that sometimes the abutters would.
Yeah, just because they was getting long and they, one of them had
Some-
kids and he didn't want like ticks or whatever, so he would.
Maintaining, so.
Yeah, they would maintain that, and they would clear like up to that area. But yeah, it used to be, I guess, a working dairy. There's still like, you can find like broken milk bottles on the ground, like
Oh, okay.
some old haying machines still out in the woods.
This is the site that a sign was put up for no hunting, but only on one side or one corner.
Right, there's only
Site.
one
We
spot,
were
right?
talking about this last year.
Yeah, I think it's
Correct.
200 something acres, maybe 250, and it abuts a lot of other conservation land. So the commission was actually proposing at one point to put in a parking area. That we were going to work with the DPW to level it off and put in like just like the crushed stone.
Yeah.
Just something to keep the plant, because they were always complaining about the grass. So we said, well, why don't we make it a parking area, make the property more accessible, to residents.
Right.
Probably don't even know it's there.
Isn't there also hiking trails?
There's power lines up there, so there's a lot of people that will go up there and hike and
We have the
snowshoe. A lot of people snowshoe up there.
trail stewards use that area a lot, but there's also hunting there.
Yeah.
As long as the hunters and the hikers aren't together.
I was like, that makes me a little concerned.
When this initially came up, one of the concerns, that was brought up was, the neighbors didn't want to see people with guns walking near their house.
Right.
But how it was explained by one of the hunters was, if you're entering the property from that street, and you know the hunting laws, first of all, you know where the houses are, you know where the street is, and you have to go beyond a certain level. And I did speak with the president of the Leominster Sportsman's Club, and I guess you can get free signs from the hunter education group, where you can, and it's actually like a safe hunting zone. So like people entering the property from Hill Street would be able to go up through there, and there would be these like blue signs or whatever they are that would say,
Hunting allowed after
Yeah.
this spot or.
Yeah, so, and we have a kiosk there, so
Right.
we could actually say, hunters, please be aware of,
Right.
I think that'd be good.
cognizant of neighbors and follow hunting laws or whatever.
I don't think I'd want to put, safe hunting zone or you're in a hunting zone type signs up.
No, but I'm
Okay.
saying, you could, but just say, please, you can, whatever,
Yeah,
just.
I mean, that determination should be either the local police or wildlife police in terms
Okay.
of where you can hunt, where you can't.
I mean, if that was a concern, I was just.
Yeah, no, I hate to, we put a sign up and then somebody builds a new house and the sign gets left out there.
Oh, yes.
No.
Yeah,
that like you said, the hunters should know the laws, how
Right.
far they've gotta be, you know, where the backdrop's gotta, everything involved. I don't wanna start regulating hunting. So, where, do you know where the site is?
I don't very well.
You want me to?
Yeah, if you can just, so here's Hill on the Pleasant Street side, alright, as you see, you go all the way up.
Alright, so it's actually, this is the meadow right here, so the entrance is
I don't have parcel lines on
right
here.
there. This is
There?
the entrance right there.
Someone occupying that?
Yeah, sometimes people, then the farm guy parks his farm equipment on there.
Which we should probably address that too
Yeah.
then.
And then there's a path that brings you up to this meadow. So
Right.
this meadow, if you look back here, like all the, in here is, it's actually shrunk. We lost a lot of the meadow. It was determined that it would be good to keep it. Shoreland Farms did it a while back. They cleared like the back 40 acres and they were just maintaining it as a meadow. So we decided to kind of do the same
Was there,
thing.
is there an advantage? I don't have a problem having DPW or someone clear it. I mean, it looks like there's definitely wooded areas there. I mean, is there, obviously there's different wildlife that
Yeah,
lives in
birds
meadows
that-
versus
yeah.
woods, so.
Yeah, it's basically birds that nest in the tall grass and things like that, there's less predators because, you know,
It's wide open.
but
yeah.
the smaller the meadow gets, the predators are that much closer to that
Right.
nest, so. It may be too late now, I mean, the size of it's, you know, looking at that canopy, it's really shrunk, so.
Is it
And you need a certain, you know,
size?
size for it to be beneficial, so. It's just a matter of whether to maintain it as a meadow. We had talked to, somebody wanted to put his sheep up there at one point, you know, raise sheep up there or something, that fell through. But just trying to maintain it
Especially
as.
with the hunters.
Landfill is more attractive.
So,
Please, but
so what would you like to do?
Well, I don't have any issue with removing no hunting signs. I don't think that we should be regulating that.
Right,
My concern is the agenda. You do have to put some minimum information on here regarding what you're discussing to really take a formal vote.
okay,
So having new business and just a street address, you really shouldn't be voting on an action
That's fine.
tonight on it.
that's fine.
So if we can add an agenda item to that gives a brief description, you know, discussion regarding the posting of hunting signs on this piece of land, that would cover it.
yeah.
But
Is that what we're gonna be discussing?
We're
That
gonna,
wasn't really too much.
yeah, we're gonna remove any no
Yeah.
hunting signs. Maybe talk to, you know, let neighbors know about parking, you know.
Yeah.
so on other sections of the, just for quick discussion on the agenda, we have, for instance, these certificates of compliance and then those addresses. Clearly, you know, you're gonna be talking about certificates of compliance for those sites. But on here, under just new business, the public's gonna have no idea what's there. They may be disinterested in just seeing a street address, but all of a sudden, if it's a specific thing, it might gather their attention.
Yeah.
Right,
I think we had some concern here from the audience the last time we talked about it.
right,
so-
there was. So yeah, put a quick description about, you know, upkeep of the meadow, hunting signs.
Should I notify the abutters as well?
I don't think you need to notify the abutters. Yeah. But it does need to be on the agenda with a brief description of what we intend to discuss.
So basically, we're looking at, yeah, we're looking at, do we want to keep it as a meadow or let it grow in? And seeing it was paid through from hunting money or whatever you call it, probably shouldn't not allow hunters
Yeah.
to be on there.
And the sign technically says no hunting this entrance, so you're basically just, which I don't even think it has any, I think people could go in anyway, it's not a legal sign.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold any legal, like if they were doing that, you could say I'm walking into the woods
But
to.
some people are gonna see it and get discouraged, and I don't wanna discourage allowed recreational activities.
Right,
Yes.
that's sort of a concern is with allowing people to use it.
Right, right, so.
So let's get it formally on there and.
It's a good idea. I think we should keep it a meadow, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, Joanne DiNardo might be a good resource if you want
I
to,
agree, yeah.
in case you know, She might have some more information. I'll try to reach out to her. Because she worked on the project at Shoreland Farms. And they did a really good job there. You know, they actually got grant money. They get for like 5 years or 10 years to get it mowed. So they didn't even have to incur the cost. They had a company come out and clear the whole thing. They bushwhacked it with they had those machines that like ground trees down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they indicated the trees they wanted to keep. You can't have too many because of the predators, but then they cleared it all, and then they had the money to, you know, continually mow it for like 10 years or whatever. That way it was, you know, firmly established as a meadow.
Right.
But yeah, we kind of, we're sort of losing the meadow if we don't do something.
Okay. Put on the agenda and boilerplate discussion. I actually read these. Did anybody else have a chance to review?
I read them a long time ago, but not recently.
I did have some comments, actually more things to add to it, that stuff that we always tell people. So if we're gonna do that constantly, we might as well put it, you know, in there. You know, like one of the issues was, 2-year growing season. That seems like to be our kind of our normal. Well, why don't we put it right in there? So if we forget to do it, you know what I mean?
I have, so specifically for wetland replication, was there anything else in that boilerplate that addressed replication areas?
You had to ask me that. I don't
Because
think so.
I have a list of a few paragraphs for that
Okay.
at my office. It basically tells you how you've got to meet the performance standards. You've got to have the 2 growing seasons. It's
Yeah, see, like I put here, for replication areas, I put 2 growing seasons. Do we want to specify how much we want? You know, do we want to say 1 for 1, 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1? Do we want to make that a boilerplate?
well, that
That's
would
me.
have to be in the plan you approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are just, I know the growing season one, I said definitely because I know that keeps coming up. Things like erosion control, do we want to specifically put silt fence and straw wattles? Do we want to just leave that up to each project? Do we want to, you know?
I think that's site specific.
Snow
There was actually a typo in here somewhere, believe it or not.
Marco
There wasn't
must-
a lot of things. It's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good list.
Dan, was there something about snow storage? in
No.
there? No, because that's been a hot topic.
No, and you know, but believe it or not, it was actually a little bit more. I did read it years ago, and I thought it's actually pretty concise from what I thought. Did you read it lately?
I looked at some of it. I
Did
did
you?
the first, yeah, I didn't finish. It's actually on the front seat. I meant to bring it in. Okay.
So I'm the only one that did the homework.
I'll give you guys lunch.
See, I want a piece of candy, and the rest of them nothing. No, I think it would be good that we do review it, and if we can talk about it, just kind of leave it on the agenda. But yeah, if you have any language for stuff like that, that would be.
I'll send that to Angela and she can pass it around.
Yeah, because like I said, I had replication areas, replication size, silt fence, and straw wattles. If do we want to do that, or do we want to leave it specific? Snow storage, I thought of it, but I was like, how do you put that in a boilerplate? That was my question. You need to have designated snow storage, or
No snow storage within a resource area.
you know, yeah. I suppose you could say something like
Yeah.
that. So, but I think it would just help cover a lot more, because this goes out. If we say obviously boilerplate, this goes out to every single one of our orders. So
It's supposed to be on everyone no matter what.
right,
If we voted it, we ended up voting on it. That would be attached to all
that'd be
orders.
attached to every single order. So,
Yeah.
but
Just, I think we had to, or
yeah.
so at one point it was suggested that we do
I
that.
thought it was good. Like I said, I think there's a few things we could add. So if you could do your homework before the next time.
Was that sent recently, Angela?
I handed it out at the last meeting.
And did you not send it attached to
I believe I also sent it attached to one of the emails, but
There was a couple of emails.
if I send, sometimes if I put too many attachments on an email, some people will not get the attachment.
Yeah.
So I started sending things single attachments.
Okay.
The one
I can
that
send it out
couldn't
again.
find it was right in my folder. I was looking all over the computer for it. It's in the folder. Well, I'll do this
So.
tonight before I go to bed.
It's good, I don't know, it's pretty riveting. It might keep you awake.
Well,
Old business, Manusnock Brook. Do we have any updates on that?
Yes, so I did speak to the engineer as well as Sean, Mr. Sean Como from the DPW. Right now, it's going through the costs proposal department at the engineering firm, so they were waiting on that. They said they should be hearing back by June 11th. It'll be submitted to the DPW. They did not get it on June 11th, but the plan is to start work at the end of June, or at least have a plan to start work by the end of June.
Okay. Any comments on that?
they'll be notifying us.
Absolutely. I have been working with them, it's just it has to go through the cost analyst right now to see what it's gonna cost us at this point.
Did we get a plan as to the specifics of the work?
That is also something that they're working
We're
on
still
along
waiting
with,
on
yeah,
that.
they're kind of trying to figure out all the, they said they'd have to by the end of June, so.
Okay. We'll put down June 30th. Hopefully by the next meeting, we have something. 66 Granite Street. Do we have any updates?
Not at this time.
I would like to talk about this for a minute. This is the gardener spot, correct? Okay. Obviously, this has kind of been an ongoing thing. I did read through every piece of information that I have collected and did some research. I still believe that he is in violation of the regulations. His engineer asked that we not go to the site until he could have a chance to visit the site and talk with the owner. Is that correct? That's been a month now. I think my opinion, we forced the issue at this point. Meaning, he has till the next meeting to either give us an update, allow us on the site, come for discussion, or we do something else. Because at this point, I'm a little afraid that he's just gonna sit on it for the summer. And it's just gonna sit there if we don't kind of force their hand. So, I mean, like I said, I read everything. To me, he's in violation. So at this point, I would think we have the right to do some sort of an enforcement. I don't know if we need to go that route, but we've given him a month to have his engineer go and look at it and address it. And we've had no communication other than I haven't got there. So, thoughts?
I feel the same way. I was fortunate enough to be on the site with the owner, so I'm not guessing at what I saw.
Right,
I saw what I saw, and
Right.
I see it as a violation.
right.
I mean, I'd like to see the piping just disconnected so that it's not going right back into the river.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of my question, is, you know, how do we force the hand nicely? You know, I don't, you know. Do we give him to our next meeting? Do we notify him saying, you have till our next meeting, if not, we go into enforcement mode? And then at the next meeting, we need a plan, we need whatever?
I don't think it's unreasonable to direct the owner to either give us his plan or allow us on the site before
Right.
June 26th.
Right.
That's the perfect way to word it, because
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Is this not the site we're going to for the sidewalk?
No.
No.
No, that is
That's
99 Street.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
I was gonna say, it was
I'm gonna take those kids.
Oh, I saw it, it was-
Yeah, just upside down.
No.
I saw that and I was like, oh man.
No, that was kind of my thought, is it's been a month, we've had no communication.
It's been more than a month.
It had, I assumed it was about a month, but, you know, this isn't a large project of complications here, you know
I
what I
don't know
mean?
why
So-
we just don't go take a look at it and make a decision, so he should, there's no reason for him to
Right,
not say, sure, let's take a look. If he thinks he's not in violation, let us look at it.
right.
I did look from the road just to see if you could see that basin, but there's too much product around it, you can't see anything.
Can you do an enforcement order and say no further discharging into the resource area? until-
Well, if you know that's what's happening, I personally don't know that's what's happening, because I haven't been able to get down there
Yeah,
and see it.
right.
But
Right.
I mean, we both saw it, we know it's happening, but you guys haven't, so I don't blame
But-
you for not
right.
wanting to do that.
Can
I
you
would-
word it such that you're saying, you know, it's an enforcement order, you know, until the commission has a chance, please make sure that there's no,
my opinion on enforcement orders is those should be black and white. You should know the person's in violation, or you should know he's okay and you don't issue it. I don't think you should ever really issue one when it's gray. You try to work through that gray area
Yeah.
first. You know, you're 100% sure there's a problem, then issue it. I wouldn't want to expose ourselves for issuing enforcement for something that somebody's in compliance for.
yeah.
You know, that exposure is pretty minimal if there is any, but it's, at the same
Right.
time, you also don't want to look like you're a commission that's harassing people who are doing things the right way.
Right.
But
So
I,
that's-
yeah, at some point though.
Well, that's why I don't want it to go, at this point, I don't want it to go past 2 weeks from now.
Right. I agree. So
That's-
I think we let them know that we're looking for something 2 weeks, really, and that something to me is let's take a look at the site.
That's correct.
If we can't get in there in the next 2 weeks, we'll consider other options.
Correct.
And then we can discuss that at the next meeting too.
So I just think that's, you know, how, the way I put it is, how do we force it nicely without just slapping an enforcement
Yeah.
order on them, but.
Yeah, but at some point.
But I don't want it to keep kicking the can. I mean, June 26th is, I mean, summer's almost half over. So,
Summer just started.
if you
Hasn't started yet.
if you could, if you could notify, if you've been speaking with Mr. Morrow, is that who you've been talking
I've
with?
been speaking with Mr.
Both?
Morrow primarily now.
Okay, but just notify them that that's our intention to have something in place by our next meeting, which is the 26th, I believe. Any further discussion? Okay. Enforcements. Let's go to the easy ones. 35 Berkshire Drive.
So I believe there was some confusion on this one. I did speak to the homeowner again because I still hadn't heard anything. I sent him another letter again requesting the wetland scientist report. He had actually called his wetland scientist and left him a message and thought that he would just contact me and square everything away. So he wasn't aware that it wasn't squared away. So I spoke to him on Friday and he'll be contacting Mr. Karen and getting back to me hopefully by the end of the week.
Okay. 96 Exchange Street.
So I did meet with the pavers for this job site. They were looking to start work this week. I informed them that they weren't able to start work this week as they incorrectly, they told me, they handed me all the paperwork, said they had recorded the deed with the easement. I mean, the order of conditions with the easement. When I looked further into it, that wasn't the case, and I contacted them. They're working on doing that now. They still haven't fixed the erosion controls, but they will be contacting me once they are fixed. This time around, I worked with the gentleman from the paving company that's going to be doing the paving. They are going to be doing that shortly and will be contacting me afterwards for me to come by and inspect.
Okay. So what's the issue with the paperwork?
They had given me 2 papers like this that said easement. One said easement on it, one said And I went into the registry of deeds to just double check everything, and it wasn't there. And I contacted Mr. Oldfield, and he said, oh, I thought we recorded the easement, but it looks like they did not record the easement.
Oh, they just recorded the order. Oh, okay.
Were they recorded twice, the same order?
That's what he made it seem like, but when I looked into it, the order was only recorded once, so I'm not sure if they just made photocopies, and then there was some slip of paperwork in between Mr. Zaraz and Mr. Oldfield. And Mr. Oldfield's gonna work on contacting the lawyer to have him do it.
Okay. So they're still in the cease and desist until that gets
Yeah,
squared
they
away.
do understand that
and
they
the-
can't do any work until that is squared away.
And the erosion control is fixed.
Exactly.
Okay. 1145 Central Street.
So I did hear back from the city's lawyers, Copeland and Page, on this one. They called me, what their advice was to hire a constable. So they recommended that we hire a constable, and then we can send out the letter from the enforcement so that we know that they're getting it, and then we can proceed from there.
Comments? Let's do it. Okay.
Is that the Lunenburg one? The one that went to Lunenburg?
Yes.
Yes, yes, that's what they are.
There's a lot more activity at that site, there's a lot of vehicles now,
Is it? Okay.
so looks like it's used for like, somebody just to warehouse their toys or something, and it's almost, doesn't seem like just seems like there's a lot of vehicles, but not a lot of activity.
Okay. Do you have, you obviously have a number to contact here for constables and stuff?
I believe they provided me one in the email. I don't have it written down.
No, that's
paperwork.
fine.
Like, you have my email, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah, that just says you can contact the Worcester County Sheriff's Department, which is fine. Okay,
I just wanted to vote on it as it would
Do-
use funding.
that's correct. So, we'll probably want to vote on this so we can delegate some money for this thing. So do I have a motion do we know how much it costs?
I do not know the exact.
I want to say it's $25 or $35.
That's all?
Yep. It's pretty inexpensive. I think so. I know it's under 50. I know that for a fact. It's definitely under 50.
I'm not going to the post office.
No. So, do I have a motion to give our agent authorization?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we give our agent authorization to obtain a constable to deliver our enforcement order.
For 145,
1145 Central Street A.
do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. You can do that tomorrow, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Lastly, 723 Willard Street.
I verbally spoke with the lawyers on this one, as it has been, the case has been going on for quite some time. They did have a chance to review all of their old documents. I guess there's some new attorneys there now. And their advice was, the same, to hire a constable to serve it. They recommended doing it through their office for this case. So they're gonna draft me a letter that's gonna go along with the enforcement order, then they will resend it out.
Okay.
So they're gonna give us the letter to review before it gets sent?
Yes. I spoke to him on Thursday, so I was gonna give them at least a week to draft it.
Okay, so our letter is outdated because of the timeline that we've initially sent. So whatever they send should probably incorporate the timeline into that.
Yes.
Or if they say immediate removal is fine or something like that. I just don't think we want it to drag on
Right.
So
couple
I
years after the
apologize.
letter.
That was, I'm exhausted. So we did discuss, he said he was gonna give them a 14-day window to either remove everything or to contact us or come in. And then we can go from there whether or not we're gonna be going to court.
Okay.
They contact us with a plan of where we're going to be going forward with this.
14 days.
14 days. That was his
I
recommendation.
think that's reasonable. I mean, it's not like he hasn't
Pretty
thought about
good.
it, and
Yeah.
it's not like, you know, this is, I just realized I encroached today, it's something that's been.
Right. So they said basically they're ready to go. They just need to write the letter.
So they write the letter, and then afterwards we can decide, you know, whether we want to pursue this in court if he chooses not to remove it.
Okay. I mean, I think that's our only other option at this point,
Right.
is to just bring him to court. Okay.
So how soon is he gonna get that letter out?
He said it had to be in about a week, so tomorrow's Thursday.
So we'll have it, you should have it next week, and then we can look at it and okay it at the next meeting 2 weeks from now, and then,
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're gonna have
I
to,
could also send, if they do send to me, I can send to an email.
actually, that makes sense too.
I don't know if that'd be appropriate, send an email, if anyone has any issues, they can call me and I can address it.
Could we vote on it now to issue it, approving, pending approval of, you know, pending there being, just so that it can happen sooner than later? I'm just thinking, you know,
that's my biggest issue, is how do we,
maybe we can,
I mean, the letters should be pretty simple. You encroached, you have 14 days to either remove it and begin restoration, or come in front of us for,
yeah, you don't wanna,
ideally, I'd like an answer by the next meeting. Whether they're gonna be at the next meeting, or if they're gonna remove it, ideally, but how do we do that?
We don't. I mean, it's a draft letter.
What
so
is-
We'd have to look at it, and we'd have to be okay with it. We can't do that unless we do it in an open meeting.
They did say that they would send the letter out without us okaying it originally, but I said, you know, I would like to have a copy sent to me beforehand.
So just for clarification, they're directing them to come before us, so why specifically?
Yeah.
If we're giving them the order, I think we've all agreed that it needs to be removed. So why is the direction to come before us again? Did he talk about that at all?
Didn't go into too much detail, but the way the conversation went is that he wasn't able to remove it within 14 days, for whatever reason, if he's on vacation, it's summertime, if he's on vacation, that maybe he'd come before us and we could put in a plan to enforce it. No.
That's gonna
Just
take a
remove
long
it in
kicking the
14
can
days.
down
Yeah.
Okay.
the
Well,
road
it's kind of like
further.
going back to where we were
I
a year
think,
and a half
I
ago.
think it
I
should be
think-
simple and that you stick to the time frame to remove it.
I think we gave him a time frame, which we now passed, because that was May of 2018. I don't have a problem not reviewing the letter from the attorney, as long as it's very specific. You encroached, you have 14 days to remove it and begin restoration.
otherwise, something happens.
Otherwise,
What's the
we'll take
mechanism that
legal
happens?
action or something. I mean, it
Yeah.
can literally be that simple.
I have a question.
Yes.
At our last meeting, we had asked to get legal opinion on serving these two enforcement orders.
Yes.
One was for 1145 Central.
That's correct.
The other one's Willard Street. The Central Street one, no issue. Here's, get a constable, we just voted on it, do it. Why is this one different?
No, I think you did mention he suggested getting a constable as well. for
Yeah,
this
but
one.
he's just hiring
Right.
through Colton and Page, going through them, having them send it out just as.
Why though? What's so different about this? It's not the same issue, but it's the same violation. I mean, we're
It's-
considering an enforcement order.
But if the lawyer
But you can't
handles
deliver.
that, if the lawyer handles that part of it, if it goes to litigation, they'll have all the
They're already-
information at their
right.
fingertips, because they were the ones that arranged for the constable.
Right.
They were the ones that.
I think they're preparing
that's-
for
Right.
the next level.
I, that's a good point, Larry.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. What about the letter? Do we want to just,
I'd like to see.
Let's, yeah, but I don't know if we need to kick it down to another meeting or not. So can you forward it to us through
Yeah.
email, and if everybody's okay with it?
if you could talk to the attorney, I mean, get it, and then if it's not, as long as it states those three things, has a timeline.
Right, we've already voted on this before. So
Right.
as long as that letter has what we've.
Basically, you're encroached, you have
Yeah.
14 days to remove and start restoration, or we're gonna take legal action. Period, kind of, I'm sure they'll put some more wordsmithing to it, but
Yeah.
as long as it states that, I'm pretty much okay with it, so. Do I have a motion do we need to give them funds for that, I'm assuming?
That was not discussed. I'm assuming we would have to
Pay
fund
for-
this.
Pay for
It's
the-
city land though. I mean, it's under the jurisdiction of conservation, but it's,
Well, didn't we get authorization from the mayor to use his legal team,
Yeah.
essentially, the city's legal
Right,
team?
that's what I mean.
Right.
It's not
We
like-
filled out that form and gave it to him.
he approved it, so it's not like they
If
would.
we went out and got an attorney to represent us as the deed owners, we would have just had to make sure that we had the money in our account for that.
Right.
But we went through the mayor's office for that, so I would presume that's,
We've never paid in the past.
So the city should pay for the
Okay, I would-
constable, is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
I'm not sure how that works.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess we don't need to vote on it at that point. Okay,
I will
if
contact
you
them.
could get that done ASAP, it'd be nice to have some sort of, at the next meeting, some sort of update, whether the constable, at least get the letter in hand. And if the attorney says 14 days, I think that's more than fair to have it removed. So,
Absolutely.
perfect. Emergency certifications,
None.
project updates.
I was contacted by the contractor over at 298 Central Street. They're gonna be doing the demo of the house and the shed right along the riverside. He was really concerned because of how close the shed is to the river. They do have an order of conditions. He did ask me if maybe he could, have me on site, and I've walked the site with him. I inspected the erosion controls. He did move the erosion controls slightly closer to the river just in case anything went wrong during the demo process. It would be safer for the river. They also just told me their plans for the week. They're gonna start ripping up the asphalt. But they're not doing the demo at this time. They're still waiting on the permit for that. But they're just gonna start ripping up the asphalt this week, and he's been keeping in contact with me every step of the way.
have they created that, have they restored that wetland area yet?
Don't believe so. I didn't.
Because I thought we had a special condition that would be done prior to any other work on site.
Does that be done before the demo, or that be done after the demo?
Well, the demo is other work, so it would be done before the demo.
I will double check on that.
What was the address again?
290 and 298 Central Street.
That's the one next to AutoZone, is it?
Yeah, right next to Autos.
Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong parcel.
I was like, I didn't see a
I've got
replication
the wrong
area.
Central Street, okay.
Okay, so you're thinking 292?
I'm thinking that one with the vehicle parking lot that we just approved.
I just,
Okay.
sorry.
I got a little confused, I had to think about it
It's
too.
really
'cause
long
I'm-
streets with all these projects.
It's a 12-hour day for me. I'm like, oh my god, did I miss that?
No.
Okay.
Gotcha, okay.
Anything else? Any commission members want updates on anything?
The project that is over on Exchange Street, the guy that's got the excavator that was removing poison ivy,
Yes.
have you seen that lately? It's
I
grown.
have not. It's grown.
It's shocking. I mean, he's got to be in the riverfront zone. There's 2 family of geese that are down in the grassy knoll area right at the embankment of the river. And he's cleared right down to that grass area. He can't be more than 50 feet from the water. I really think that should be filed. I don't know what he's doing. The other day, there was a pile of dirt that was piled up probably half as high as the ceiling here. And then today, it's all been spread out again. But the whole area is completely excavated out, and there's no erosion control. So I think we need to take a good look at that and find out what the heck he's doing. It's a
They
bobcat
were just
machine.
removing the poison ivy and everything that was coming up to their pool, and they were removing it because of the shed they had to take down in the back area. I drew that they were gonna plant some non-invasive, species in there, so it wasn't just dirt, but if they're doing other work there, I can most likely take a look.
It's the first time I've seen somebody use a bobcat to get rid of poison ivy. I mean,
Now
it's-
where?
They have
This is
They're
just
highly
before you turn
allergic.
to the high school, off of Exchange.
On the right-hand side?
On the right-hand
Yeah, where they
side.
put the temporary fence up, or whatever, is that,
the chain.
The one that
right
abuts
before
the river?
bridge.
Right,
because that's all riverfront, that's a perennial stream.
yeah.
So they have a bobcat in the riverfront.
He's right there. I mean, he can't be more than 50 feet, 60 feet from the water. I think you gotta take a look at that,
Yeah, I'll take another look at
find
it.
out what he's doing. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Originally, they were just removing the shed and removing the poison ivy.
Well,
because
originally they
they're so
cut down
highly
some
allergic.
trees, and I think I mentioned that to you, this was a couple months back. And
Yeah, they-
you went and talked with them, and they were just gonna take some of the brush out.
Yeah, they were trying to clear the brush, because underneath all the brush, the shed had collapsed, and so they were
Right.
removing all that, and then they had to remove all the poison ivy in order to get in there, because they were both extremely allergic to the point where they've been hospitalized. And that's why they use their son's bobcat, which is kept on their property, it's their own personal,
Right.
so. I do know they say in the winter they did have a blue tarp over it, so maybe why no one saw it in the wintertime, but they said it's
Mhm.
always been on the property,
Well, it's
yeah.
quite a project.
So this is a parcel next to Kingwood Drive?
It's
Yes.
100 Exchange Street, I believe, right across from 96.
So which side are you on? So here's Exchange, here's Kingman, going to the high school.
Okay, you see this,
Yeah.
right here,
Yeah.
all of these trees have been all taken out.
And we gave him permission to do what again?
We didn't give them permission, they had done it already, but they had removed the poison ivy and removed a collapsed shed.
With heavy equipment,
With their bobcat.
they bought, but
But like,
and where was the poison ivy they removed?
I guess, where is the house? Started, there's the pool, right?
Yeah.
yep, so this whole area right here was
This is-
overgrown with poison ivy.
This is completely excavated out
And this,
now.
it's all overgrown.
Yeah, so that's,
But they'd only done one last time, and it was right over here where the shed had been.
He's
think
down,
that's
he's
the
down
shed.
to at least here now.
Okay.
And it's excavated all the way up to this tree line, it's completely
Is-
taken out, this whole thing is taken out.
as far as I'm concerned, if somebody's doing some vegetative maintenance with machinery like that, and they're in our jurisdictional areas, they should come before us and get approval for that beforehand.
Yeah.
That's,
Yep.
and the thing that scares me the most is when somebody approaches a conservation agent and says something like, I just want to clean up the area, because that usually means the area's gone before you know it. So be careful if you ever hear that term.
What happened was Paul had let me know, and I did a site visit, and I left them a letter saying to contact me, and
Yeah.
some of what's going on, and that's what they were like, no, we had to clean, because they were so highly allergic, they couldn't even use their pool, because the poison ivy was just coming up over their pool.
You don't need machinery to control poison ivy.
Yeah.
I think it was more like just had it. Right.
Yeah, I think you better halt his progress and have them come in and explain what they're doing there or something.
First of all, find out the extent of what they've done. And you can compare what you see on site with historical orthos,
Yeah.
and go from there.
Anything else?
No. I think that's it.
Budget.
It does say please see attached. My printer was printing for an hour before, so I was not able to print it. But I do believe I did print the wetland budget. There was no change in it from last time. And I did speak to the comptroller, and I'm gonna be working with Cheryl Canito, one of the comptroller's employees, to have a certified wetland budget approved. Right now, they're a little busy, but I did discuss it with her last week, and she's gonna be working on that with me.
Okay. Did you happen to see what they have officially, even though it's not official?
Not at this time, because it was right after the budget meetings had been done for the city,
Okay.
so it was kind of a,
Okay. Agents report, says see attached, but I have nothing attached.
I will email it to you all later, it's just my updates for the week, I apologize, my printer
Okay.
took an hour to print everything.
Chairman's report, I have nothing. The next meeting is June 26th, are we sure that's the next meeting? Is that the 4th?
You
Tuesday.
verified that via email, Mr. Chairman. I put it on my calendar.
Yes, that is the correct. I may or may not be able to be here, just to warn you, so I'll know probably next week if I can make it or not. So,
On that subject, I also have a webinar that evening, so I will be here, but I will be in a webinar.
okay,
If that's a problem, I can most definitely skip the webinar, but it's a live webinar.
okay. So right now, our meeting is for June 26, 2018, with a deadline of June 14th, 2018. Is there anything else anybody'd like to discuss? With nothing, this meeting is adjourned.